My name is Dawne Lynch, and I'm with the Resource Center for Family Focused Practice out of UC Davis. I am a peer partner and wraparound program specialist. And today I will be presenting with the incomparable Roger De Leon, who you all just experienced facilitating the youth in the larger group. And so what can I tell you? I've been doing well, let me start with this. I do have lived experience. Jacob Robert Shaw, everybody knows his entire name, is my qualifier. We navigated systems together almost 16 years ago. He is now 29 years old, married, and gave me the joy and pride of my life, my grandbaby, Braxton. Not negating my other grandchild, however, but he has got my heart, right? And so with that, I became a parent partner after navigating my system, parent partner supervisor. I became a wraparound coach fidelitist. Then I joined the parent partner advisory committee. Through that committee, co-chairing with Roger De Leon, we have the peer hubs. With that, I work alongside Kayla Granderson at CDSS with the family finding unit. And together we work very closely on amplifying and uplifting our peer community, not just those with lived experience, but peer and parent partners across the state of California. And now I get to kind of just do the work on a broader level, really getting the word out to the entire state of California on how important the role of lived experience and the peer work. So that is a little bit about me. I'm going to pass it over to Roger.
All right. Thank you, Dawne. Thank you as always. It's a privilege to be here alongside you as always. I have a lot of similarities. I'm not going to go into too much details. You heard enough about me if you were in the main room, right? So I don't want to, bore you with more, except for what I always bring out with my introductions, and that is that I am a father of a beautiful 28-year-old that has given me four beautiful grandchildren. One just turned 4 months, I believe. Yeah, 4 months. I have three beautiful little princesses and one handsome prince. So, and I share them with that all the time. I am very involved with them. Also, I can't forget my beautiful queen of 22, going on 23 years this year. Wow. My backbone. She's the one that gave me the support to go forward. And so I too am, I was the first parent partner hired and helped develop it for Riverside County Children's Services. I still consider myself a parent partner. I've resigned. It's going on 2 years since I've been independent contracting, consulting, and all that wonderful stuff. But also, I'm a trainer with Davis and all the other academies. I always throw Davis out there. Hopefully, no other academies here, right? Because that's where I started. That's where my heart is at. And I, as Dawne mentioned, I am the co-chair for the Parent Partner Advisory Committee, which is something that I'm excited about because I remember going in there and starting off as a parent partner and developing, and it went off. So with that, I'm going to stop there. It's enough about me, right? And so we can go to the next item. Like to begin.
Real quick, Roger, too, I just wanted to say, Elizabeth, if you can help Roger and I monitor the chat, we do appreciate questions in the moment. So if anything pops up for you, please either use your raise your hand feature, type it in the chat, and we are happy to have an open conversation as we go. I just wanted to pop that in. All right, Roger, take it away.
Thank you for doing that. So I know that we have a lot of individuals here in the room. So and if we go one by one, I know we'll be here all day. So what we're going to do is in the chat, we want to know who you are. We want to know who's in the room, right? So if you can please introduce yourself by putting your name, your role, your county, and then of course, have you ever worked with a peer partner? So we'd love to see who we have here in the room. And, oh, hey, Kayla, how you doing? Good to see you. CDSS representing as well. Elizabeth too. I can't forget Elizabeth, right? CDSS. All right. Evelyn Cortez, parent advocate, Los Angeles County. Okay. Whitney Booker.
I love Santa Barbara. You guys have the best zoo.
Oh, not to mention the best weather. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Right. Welcome. We are so happy that you're here. And today we are going to really dive in around lived experience, peer partners, youth, and parent in relations to county prevention planning and onboarding. So thank you so much for putting your introductions in the chat for us.
All right, next slide. So we're going to go over the learning objectives really quickly. So at the end of the session, participants will be able to, you should be able to walk away with this. Define lived experience and explain its value in the context of prevention planning. Identify effective methods and tools to locate individuals with lived experience. And apply practical strategies to meaningfully engage individuals with lived experience, ensuring their contributions shape prevention plans, which is very important. For those of you who sit on the statewide convening planning committee, you have heard me over and over share about the importance of lived experience and having them at the table, all right, and being able to do that. And so today we're going to do our best to go through. There's a lot of context as we go through to try to bring as much as we can out, and of course try to answer questions as we go. So we want to do we want you all to annotate. Everyone familiar with that? Be able to write on the screen here. And so write your definition of lived experience. What is, and the second question is, what is a peer, youth, and parent, right? A peer partner. I got to finish that, right? So
you've had a busy morning, Roger. All good. Your annotate feature is on your bar for the Zoom. It's probably middle next to the share screen. You can click annotate and have a write text feature. If you're having trouble annotating on the slide, that is a-okay. Please drop it in the chat. We're just trying to get a gauge of everyone's knowledge around lived experience and peer partner work. And you know what? We could always do old school and somebody could come off mute and and do it that way too.
I am lived experience expert of foster care and human trafficking.
Nice. Nice.
Welcome, welcome.
I quickly want to also add, for some people, there might be a tiny little pen at the bottom corner of the screen where you can annotate there too.
Oh, good. I was today years old, Elizabeth, when I just learned that feature.
And you know,
just found it myself.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm guilty too, and I'm a trainer.
I think where's it again? Where's it supposed to be again?
Bottom left-hand corner. It's
yeah.
When you highlight, it's green. It looks like a little pencil. Right above the volume, our audio.
Yeah, it's not on.
Please come on in.
Yeah, I don't see it on here.
Oh.
Huh. No, I see notes and docs.
You can go ahead and write it in the chat.
Yeah.
Tina, I see that your hand is raised. Come on in.
Tina.
I can't find the what is it, annotation thing, but I'll just share. So what I think my definition of lived experience is someone who's impacted by whatever I know people say lived experience is, any experience in relation to whatever you're supporting. But for me, I think it's someone who's impacted, someone who has direct experience and insight that can, advise on how to remove barriers and just kind of speak on their own experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Nice.
Antoinette, come on in.
Yeah, I think I was gonna pretty much say the same thing. I think that for me, lived experience is a conglomeration, excuse me, of many things that occur to us throughout our lives. It can be in the system and out of the system, and just the ability to be able to share those experiences with other individuals would be like what a peer partner would do, to be able to share those experiences and also to help the individual they're working with understand that those experiences, although seen as negative, can really be a positive in the long run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I think that's what we bring to the table for those who are peer, right? Peer supports. So what is lived experience? System involved, primary qualifier, impacted, successful and hopeful, challenges and insight. So these are the 5 mail buckets we typically work with within child welfare, juvenile justice, behavioral health, mental health, and educational. Individuals with lived experience have personally navigated these systems, former youth and caregivers. Lived experience brings a wealth of knowledge and perspective with them in whatever capacity it is to be shared, partnering to inform change and or create new and improved systems to engage and walk alongside our current youth and families. And not to mention that what we have cannot be taught in a school.
Mm.
It's something that cannot be taught in school. So, nothing about us without us. Have we heard this phrase before? Right? I believe we have, right? Especially if you've been around Dawne or myself, right? So the value, insight, and support those with lived experience bring into any forum, whether working in direct practice with you and families and systems of care, or adding knowledge and perspective to support best practices, have been widely untapped until recently. We are pleased to say more and more community-based organizations are recognizing the importance of having lived experience embedded in their programs. FFAs with resource parents, STRTPs, regional centers, and most adoptions. Sky is the limit. Yes, we are coming out and we were making our voices heard. And so that is a wonderful piece that we get to bring out. And so with the peer partners, also known as, right, many names, mentor parents, family parents, navigators, past consumers, system navigators, family voice advocates, peer support specialists, right? For the youth, it's youth advocates, youth mentors, youth ambassadors, former foster youth. And so, of course, peer partners equals all titles used, right? And so I know that for us there at Davis, we have turned to using peer, right? Because we want to be inclusive of both parent and youth together, and working together and developing together and being able to encourage one another, uplift one another as we go forward. So these are just a lot of the different names, and I'm sure there are many more out there. So, and of course, parent and youth partners are required roles in aftercare wraparound certification. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dawne. Oh, no, I have one more. Apologies.
That's okay. You're doing great.
Jumping ahead. So the word advocate is often synonym, I don't know, synonymous with a peer partner role. However, the goal is to support and work alongside those we serve to learn to advocate for themselves. Do for, do with, cheer on. What does this mean? Initially, a peer partner may have and encourage them to do the task or connection. Finally, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak straight out. Our job is to walk alongside to be able to develop that ability to advocate for themselves. So parents and youth, our whole purpose is not to go and fix things, but to go in there and to bring out the strengthening that's needed for parents and youth to be able to advocate for themselves, develop for themselves, so that way when the time comes, they're able to stand on their own 2 feet, strong and ready to go forward and never returning to any of these systems that we have. That is what we're looking for. So you can see on the slide here, past personal experience, engagement, support families, be on the best advocate, right? Support others and understand the parent youth perspective, interrupt bias and prejudice against parent youth as occurs, demonstrate an ability to avoid blame, telling stories, right? And relating facts. So these are a lot of wonderful points to remind us of what we are, the roles that we have as parent and youth partners. So Next slide, please. So this is valid, particularly with this group, when talking about county prevention plans and integrating those with lived experience to tap into their value and perspective to inform your plans. So common duties: advocate, right? Educate, provide honest reflection, orientation to services, bridge to caseworker probation officers, CFT member, voice on work groups for system transformation and to develop protocol, policy, and programs, crisis intervention, and to support behavioral health activities and build according system challenges. So these are some of the duties that we have as we go in, and I know Dawne, as well as myself, have been into these, really doing a lot of these different roles and duties to bring to the table that lived experience and the importance of it. And so we lay it out there for us all to see, whether you're peer, from our peer community or agencies, or the importance of understanding and knowing what our common duties are. What is it we can do? What we can bring to the table. So with that, next slide. Pause for reflection questions. So I'm going to give some time if anyone has any questions or just want to share something. I'm trying to look in the chat.
Hi, Roger. And Dawne.
Hey,
It's nice to see y'all. I do have a question. So, I know you guys encourage it, and I just went through my training and I have my state test coming up. So, any tips?
Yes, come
Thank
to our focus session with Lorena Molina, who just is taking a crisis call. Lorena is our lead facilitator with peer certification.
Okay.
Not only has she developed test taking skills, but walks you through the process and kind of how to look at the test and view it from Cal Mesa's perspective as to what they're looking for in regards to answers. I will have Lorena. Elizabeth, if you can help me when Lorena returns, ask Lorena for her email, and so we can drop it in the chat. If anybody's interested in peer certification like Ebony, I'll also drop our website to the focus sessions where you can come and meet with Lorena, and she is just a wealth of knowledge. And if your test is before a focus session, Lorena will make time for and connect with you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy I asked.
Yeah, good.
Wait, I think I signed up for some of those, but let's be sure.
No, perfect. Yes. And that, and when we're talking about amplifying lived experience, peer and parent partner voices, this is exactly what we're talking about. And even in relations to county prevention planning, peers in particular, and those with lived experience. So those are two separate things, right? So before I became a parent partner, I was a person with lived experience. I navigated systems with Jacob Robert Shaw. I was affected through child welfare, mental health, and we put our toe in the water with juvenile probation, right? Then I became a parent partner with my organization. So now I am a parent partner with lived experience. And to provide education, knowledge, resources, and guidance for the community is key to having anybody involved in any kind of capacity in a peer partner role or bringing an onboarding with lived experience. Tina, please come on in.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I wanted to one of my concerns is I'm taking the training to be a peer support specialist as well. And in different roles I play, I'm a mandated reporter. But one of my concerns is mandated reporting and peer support specialist or parent partner. How do you come together and balance that? You know, you don't want to really feed in because you have lived experience of being harmed by, systems, family policing systems, but yet you're in this role where you're supposed to report. How do you balance that?
Tina, that's a great question. I was a parent partner for about 10 years. And what I learned through my journey in supporting caregivers was just being transparent. That, you know, this is part of the work, but it's not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing, right? So if there's anything going on, let's talk about it. Let's bring it forward. And how do we plan around it, right? How can I help you be successful? Because really what systems are looking for is child welfare, keeping the baby safe, right? That's fair. Juvenile probation, they're keeping the community safe from our babies. They're like, Jacob Barbershaw can be dangerous. I'm like, got it. Okay. How do we keep him safe, right? Mental health, behavioral health, education, they all have their own lens. And so depending on how either the youth or caregiver, and I use caregiver globally because caregiver can look so many different ways, and I don't want to minimize or negate anybody's role within a family structure. We have to look at how are they showing up, and do they need to show up differently, and how can we support them? A lot of times that I have noticed, if I have sat alongside my caregiver and reported with them, it was 500 times better. So every parent's different, every youth is different. I can't give you a blanket answer for every family that you're going to have touch points with, but asking them and just kind of being transparent, saying, how would you like to handle this? If something comes up, what would you like to do? What would make you feel comfortable? And it's just building up rapport.
And I would also
So what I'm hearing is that you want to also, first of all, support their needs wherever you find them to kind of be preventative in coming into a situation. Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and I would add to that, because I worked behind the doors with child welfare. So it felt like a little bit more in the beginning, like, oh, I have to. But I think what we did was we developed a way to be able to function to where we understood the differences when a parent says, oh, I'm done with everything, and they're just exhausted, right? You know, and so one of the things, because for the 8 years that I was with child welfare, I did not have to make a report once. And so I'm not throwing it out there to say, okay, so you don't, because we always look at the safety of the child, right? In whatever capacity is, that is vital. And with that, being able to get to know the families, getting able to build that rapport to where you can use, the individuals. And then of course they trust you enough to be able to have conversations, right? If there's a way to work things out, so that way we don't have to go down that route. So, and I'm happy to say that with all them years and all them cases that I didn't have to report, we didn't have any issues. Now, I won't say that there weren't some that, fell off, and I don't know what happened to that. But my experience was that I didn't have to report. Now, I did have one colleague that did have to, but she did it alongside, the parent that was right there. And she had that conversation. They were looking at things and realized, what, this has to be done. And honestly, the parent actually agreed and said, I need this, right? And they were in a place, I believe it was substance abuse, that it was just not healthy, and they acknowledged it. And I think that when we do build that rapport, we can get those type of answers to be able to get that help that's needed and get ready to the best of our abilities. So good luck, Tina, though. Good luck. You're going to be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a quick question as we're moving forward. How many of our participants in our room are looking to add lived experience to their county prevention planning team? If you could either raise your hand or put a smiley face in the chat, come off mute, say me. Tracy, awesome. Thank you. Alyssa, perfect. Great. Awesome. Antoinette, great. And those of you who are in the workshop as lived experience or peer parent partners, this is great information for you as well. So if you're joining or trying to attach to any kind of work group, steering committee, county group, state, parent partner, insert project here. This is great information to know, not just from those who are trying to add lived experience and peer partners to their projects, but also for you with lived experience and being attached to projects. So identifying and incorporating those with lived experience. So here's the motto: do for, do with, cheer on. right? So if I am part of the county and I'm on the county prevention planning team, and we know that we are missing the voice and perspective of lived experience, now what? Well, we've identified it, right? Awesome job. Now what do we do? Well, fun fact, if this was easy work, we wouldn't be having this workshop and we wouldn't need to be talking about it. It's hard, right? Finding, preparing, and working alongside both youth and parents isn't easy. We want to validate all of that for you, that this is just, if you haven't had to put yourself out there, or even, I forget, my brain's not firing, but there's a word. Anyway, we're recruiting. That's what there. Thank you. When we're recruiting for those with lived experience, it's difficult because where do we start? Now knowing that this isn't a new concept, collaborating and gaining perspective from those with lived experience, it's still not the norm. And finding each other has been a major challenge. So this is the third year that I've been gratefully invited to the statewide prevention convening. And we continue to talk about how do we engage and find those with lived experience. So I have some great news for you. Awesome, Tina. Has anybody ever heard the 6 degrees of separation? Everybody on Earth is 6 people away from each other. Anybody, right? Like that's the theory, that if I called Roger, Roger would call somebody else, and then I would get connected within 6 people. So they did 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. If anybody knows movies and pop culture, well, they have found in the last few years that every actor in Hollywood is connected to Kevin Bacon in less than 4 films. So it's more like the 3 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? So 6 degrees of separation refers to that theory that where every person is 6 people apart, and that we can be connected through a chain of acquaintances with no more than 6 points of contact, meaning you can link yourself to anybody in the world through a maximum of 6 friend-to-friend connections. Essentially, everyone is only 6 social steps away from each other. Awesome. However, we are the 4 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's that easy within our communities, and we're going to walk you through it today. I'm also doing my technology. Okay. In the chat, or come off mute, I would love for you to identify in your county those with lived experience may have been system involved. Think about both youth and caregivers. What systems could they have navigated? What services might they have been offered? And what benefits they may have utilized? Tina, Gen X, same girl, same. We're the feral generation. So in chat or come off mute, what systems could they have navigated, services they've been offered, or benefits they may have utilized? So a brainstorming opportunity.
And real quick, I'm sorry to put Lorena on the spot, but she's back.
Yes, please. I'll tell her. Lorena, we had Ebony and a couple others who were interested in peer certification. If you could drop the link for your focus session in the chat for us today, and also your email, they would love to connect with you, because I told them you are the end all be all for certification. Awesome. So Lorena's going to drop all that in the chat for you. Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna get us rolling. Okay. Look at this list. Oh, thank you, Antoinette. Yes, criminal justice, welfare, child welfare, probation, wraparound services, aid, housing, mental health, TBS, IEPs, schools. Awesome, 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 awesome. Yes. Look at this list. Was my 10 minutes of searching. System, services, and benefits. Just looking at this slide, we can really begin to see how the 4 degrees of Kevin Bacon within our counties and our systems is going to start unpacking, right? All or most of systems, services, and benefits have someone who will have been the caregiver's or youth's point of contact. somebody talks to our youth and our families in these different realms, right? Okay. Now, where do we start? I was only allowed to drop 3 documents in our workshop today. However, I am going to email Elizabeth after our session today. I have a plethora of resources for you all. Within that resource bank I'm gonna give to Elizabeth, we have a wraparound provider list. We have the county wraparound coordinator list, your FFPSA Title IV county contact list, and we also have a YET contact list. This can be your first touch point in finding and recruiting and connecting with those with lived experience. So when you're calling from your county, you're looking up, so if you're in Yolo County, you'll see contact person here. Hi, my name is, and do you have a youth or parent who you think would be interested in being involved with county prevention planning? Because I know when I was a parent partner, I had those caregivers I was working alongside. I'm like, man, you would be a kick booty parent partner, just in it to win it, like, you know, had the journey, and then they can't come work for our organization because you have to be 2 years separated. So you're like, hey, call Olive Crest because you can't work for me. You know what I mean? And then you're calling Olive Crest to say, hey, I've got this mom that's amazing, and I really think she'd be a rad parent partner. And we're making connections for our own community, and we want others to be doing the same. So if you are part of the county prevention planning team, this is where you start making those connections. Okay. Now, people, not paper. I know we all love sending a beautiful email, but there is so much to be said when we pick up the phone or say, hey, can we Zoom for 15 minutes? I have an opportunity that I would love to talk to you about. My preferred form of communication is a conversation. When I read a very extensive email, I get lost in the details, and then I just stop reading about 2 paragraphs in. I'm like, that it's just too much. My boss knows. I'm like, yeah, I maybe like skimmed it, read it a little bit. And if someone's busy, they're just gonna kind of maybe tag it, save it for later. I'll make a note. Maybe I'll get back to you. So really doing those touch points of having a phone call, saying, hi, this is who I am. This is part of the team. Can we set up a time to talk? And then make those connections. We really want, I want to let you know, I have a bunch of resources. So making the effort to make connections is what we really want to emphasize today. Okay. How do we do that? We get personal. Right? We want direct contact. We want to encourage counties and those involved in prevention planning to reach out personally via phone calls, emails, walk down the hall. You know, county offices are sometimes real large. Walk down the hall and see what other departments are doing and who they're working with. Relying on mass communication depersonalizes the work and the value of the work that you're doing, and personal connections often create that initial trust and rapport that we're looking for with those with lived experience. We want to leverage trusted intermediaries, like those that we know, right? So use your local community leaders, your peer groups, facilitators, providers that you work with within your county. Call them and say, hey, do you work with someone who you might know? So we're not just hoping we're, you know, we have at the resource center, a mass email. Our peer community knows it's a call to action. So somebody is looking for someone with lived experience to be attached to their project, but it's just a blanket email. And really, when we kind of put boots on the ground and start making those connections, we're going to see the work come alive. Warm invitations, you know, framing invitations as opportunities for partnership and shared leadership. That speaks to my heart. You know, I'm outgoing. I can listen to myself talk all day. I have a lot of ideas. I would love to be attached to all of your projects, right? But I might not be the right person. I might not have the right lived experience for what you're looking for. So what we want to do is we want to be intentional when we're reaching out and looking for those with lived experience. We don't want to check the box, right? And so really being clear. Go ahead, Roger, please. Yes.
I want to bring this to our attention in the chat. Megan put down these
Oh,
lists.
good.
These lists are great. I just want to note that many people who've been through trauma of the lived experience get overwhelmed with these programs, the technology, or are fearful of using them, or there are, this thing's getting in the way of the box,
Wait lists, yep.
wait lists, etc. So it is not always that easy to get connected. Most important thing is recognizing the trauma and then offering the help to help them get connected, not just handing them the list lived experience expert. Absolutely.
Megan, did you read our PowerPoint? Because we're super going to talk about that. It's so true. It's so true. And there's things that we need to be mindful of and recognize when we are recruiting and offering opportunities for those with lived experience. Roger's going to touch on that in a little bit. But we're really right now kind of like, where do we find them? Right? Like, how do we find the people? And so first, it's those connections and the personal outreach. Somebody in your county prevention planning team should be kind of doing the work, right? All right. And here's kind of where Megan was speaking to. We want to offer transparency and clarity around what the ask is. So we want to really explain the why, clearly communicating why involving individuals with lived experience is essential to the county prevention planning process, and how their influence will, how their input will influence outcomes. Why we're needed. What do you want from us? How am I going to be helpful, beneficial? What will my perspective bring? And what is your outcome from that? We want to set expectations, be clear about roles, time commitments, how individuals' contributions will be valued. And Roger will talk about this later. Like, what's the outcome going to be? Am I just going to kind of come and give you some feedback and thoughts and strategies, and then off I go, and then I don't ever know what's going to happen with the county prevention planning team? Alyssa, I see you, and I'll call on you in just 1 second. So what the commitment is going to be, and then valuing their contributions through stipends, recognition, and leadership opportunities. I know that there's a few workshops here today about compensating those with lived experience. This is a really huge charge with the peer community across the state of California, where organizations and counties will absolutely pay out of pocket for collaborators to come in and consult on different projects. However, those with lived experience are just invited, and we're supposed to bleed all over the table. And then they say, thank you very much, and off we go. No, that is not the case. I am also a consultant, and I also should be recognized at that level and be compensated for my contributions. And I'm happy to say Kayla Grandison is our partner here with CDSS, the Family Centered Practice Unit. And we've worked really hard to be a leader in the charge of lived experience compensation. And starting in July, we are able to offer $50 an hour to those with lived experience attached to projects. So it's amazing, and it's a small start, and we want to spread the word. Also, recognition. If I work in an organization, I would like something to take back to my organization to put in my file that I can put on my resume that I was on the county prevention planning team, right? Like, that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Lorena, before I get to you, Alyssa, you raised your hand. Please come on in.
Yes, hi, thank you so much. So I have a quick question. If you have any suggestions or insight on, as far as the lived experience or lived expertise goes in regards to the CPP, if maybe not all individuals on the CPP plan see the value in those with lived expertise, while some do, and just maybe navigating that. I'm not saying that's specifically happening with my CPP team, and the team that I'm a part of. But I am a parent with lived expertise and a former parent partner. And so I just obviously, like everyone here, I believe, see that intricate value. But I feel like sometimes some folks at the table, they miss that. They don't see that value, or it kind of becomes maybe this thing of like, oh, this is like a third generational family. We've seen, this again, the third generation, like, is it really going to get better? But really coming to it with the lens of that empathetic and sympathetic, non-judgmental lens and curiosity to be able to understand where that parent was at and what led to whatever situation. But I just feel like sometimes, I can echo it from the mountaintops, but maybe it's not always received. So if you have any suggestions in regards to that, I feel like that would be very helpful.
That is a great question, Alyssa. Thank you for answering it. And yes, Roger and I have both experienced that as well. And I think something to take into consideration is just because somebody has lived experience, it doesn't mean that their wound has a scar, right? My wound is never going to go away. It's scarred. I see it. It's there. It's a reminder of my experience. But now I am able to offer experience, strength, and hope, perspective, a different lens to those spaces that I join. And so when we're recruiting and we're doing the outreach, we want to make sure that we're recruiting those with lived experience who don't have that open wound, right? Because we spoke to it earlier. We want to be trauma informed, and we want to have responses that are compassionate to youth and parents' trauma. And if this is going to be something that is overarching and inundating and having a lack of understanding, and we're going to talk about that as well, that could put a bad taste in everybody's mouth, the person with lived experience and the team, right? So we want to find the right person. And it's just kind of flushing it out. So when you're looking and making those connections, bringing somebody in and finding out what information do they need, what resources do they need, what training do they need to join the county prevention planning team. So just because I have lived experience doesn't mean that I can walk into your planning team meeting and be able to effectively be a part of that meeting and give feedback. What are you talking about? Do I even know? I'm just going to drop acronyms, right? Do I even know SOP, safety organized practice? Do I even know child and family teaming? Do I know about the CANS assessment? What are we talking about? Are we talking about STRTPs? What is that? Resource families. Having a pre-touch point to make sure that when we do bring on someone with lived experience, that they're ready, and then the team is ready as well. And fun fact, integrated core practice model, the state of California says we have to, right? It's in the guide. It's in the guide, and the state says we got to do it. So I don't know what else to say.
I would
But
add
Alyssa, I'm a little harsh around that. I'm like, sorry, Charlie, we're bringing them. Go ahead, Roger.
And so basically, I would say, Alyssa, as well, is being able to advocate, right? Being able to go in there, even as you're going through the process, and really sharing, look, I'm not here to be a box to be checked, right? Respectfully, I'm not here to be a box to be checked. And I'm not here to share my story over and over. I'm here to bring the experience and the expertise that I bring as I'm working with families. So what is it that we need? Because I think a lot of times what happens, and so this is why even with the statewide convening, being able to converse with the whole convening planning team and being really intentional about, okay, so we're going to invite lived experience. We need to, one, learn how to communicate, right? Because not everyone understands acronyms. Two, we need to also have that support piece, right? To make sure that, when they're onboarded, that there's something before to explain exactly what it is that's being asked of them. And three, making sure that the voices of these individuals are brought across the board. Now, as part of the task force, we made sure there was an LAX group, which Tina Rios was the co-chair for that, right? Making sure that our lived experience were being supported and giving that opportunity for voice and being a part of that. And even with our statewide convening, we did it as well to make sure that they, that those with lived experience have the support that they can reach out to me, email me at any time, and we can have a meeting on the side. So with that being said, I think when we show up, I think it's simply just professionally reminding them that we're not just individuals that have no value. And so I'm happy to say that we are bringing in through the different avenues. CDSS is one big avenue that has been very, very supportive of that. At the same time, I know we're talking also about smaller organizations or within child welfare system. So I think it's like anything else. We just have to be a broken record, unfortunately, right?
And a champion.
And a
Alyssa,
champion.
you're a champion. Lorena, come on in.
Yeah, I was just going to share that I actually sat in as a part of the prevention team. And when I got there, I was the only parent partner there, the only person with lived experience there. And it was very intimidating because the majority of them were people at the admin level, right? They were sitting in. Some of them I knew, some of them I had no idea who they were. And the intimidation of being like, okay, we have a county as big as we do, and we only have one person there with lived experience. And so a lot of it was going back to, having all of these plans in place, and it's already been drafted and it's getting ready. But I was like, well, where were we at as a part of this? Like, where was our voice, as a part of this creation of all this information? And I said, we're the ones doing the groundwork. We're the ones on the floor, on the ground doing the work. Like, we're doing this every day with our families. Why isn't our expertise as part of this, And so for a while I was sitting in on them, and we were meeting regularly, and it was about creating an assessment tool for the prevention, and then utilizing cans and some other ones, and kind of picking different ones and coming up with something. But at some point it was like, okay, we're going to dismiss certain people, and other people please stay behind to continue that. And I felt like, why are some people being dismissed and others are not being taken into those rooms and those conversations? And then eventually I just didn't get no more of an invite. And I was like, okay, like, how does this help us as the people that are working with these families? How do we provide that prevention support if we're not even included anymore? Or if we are, it's just to, I don't know, for show, maybe, if I can be transparent, But I was just taken back about it, because I was just like, wow, like, we're really not involved, even though like there's a portion through the whole draft of where we are, but we're not involved in that, And I'm like, how does that even make sense? And so I don't know, that's just my feedback on it. I think it is important. We are doing the work. I feel like sometimes the assessments or the plans that we put in place, when we're not involved or when parents are not considered a part of that, it makes no sense of how is it going to be useful? How is it going to even prevent anything when all it is the mindset of people at the top that don't do the work, just kind of putting things together or copying and pasting from things that used to work and putting it together. I'm just being truthful, So.
It's a system problem from the state down, Lorena, and
Right.
it's a marathon, not a race. And there's champions just in this room too, that there's those of us who are committed to change and just, in it for the long haul. So I do appreciate that feedback, but we're gonna stop now for some reflections and questions. Ebony, Alyssa, and then Tina. So Ebony and then Alyssa. Come on in, Ebony. You're muted.
Lorena, I'm part of a committee as well, and this is a safe space.
Yes, it is. It is.
I have experienced that.
Real quick, Ebony, if there are those that are county connected about prevention planning, I think it's good to hear too, right? Some people's experiences. So please share. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
Real quick, I just also wanted to remind everyone we're being recorded. So if you feel comfortable with with it being recorded, it will be on there.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So I will just say I'm part of a committee, and I did feel the same way. To the point to where even when I had made these particular suggestions about like reaching out to local community centers and things of that, because that's what I actually did, like go to the center. or go to events that was held, they give you free hot dog and chips or something, have a couple of things, but you can gather the people to distribute the information. So that I feel like that was taken like overlooked, but then as it went on, it started to like circle around that suggestion, but it wasn't like acknowledged when I said it. And I'm like, so I just wanted to say, yes, we are fighting. Thank you, Dawne. But really quick, with my organization and my role as a parent peer partner, my supervisor just told me this yesterday, that some of the parents and the caregivers, they're not even looking at me as part of the agency. And I'm like, what? Like if they have something to say, like a grievance or whatever, and then they're like, well, what about Ebony? And then they're like, oh no, she's fine. So they're actually like separating us peers from the system altogether. And I think that's beautiful because we're able to bridge those gaps, because I'm going to go back to the social worker and, anyways, like we're still going to collaborate, but it's really helpful.
Thanks, Ebony. Tina, come on in. And then I do want to talk about, it's 12:03 time check. We have until 12:15. There is a couple more slides and some things I do want to get to for those of you who are part of prevention planning team. So Tina, please come on in.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I just wanted to make a couple points because, I am in LA County, a lived expert community consultant. I am a leader of a coalition where we center the voices of lived experience people who are impacted by child welfare. And so I have a lot of practice in centering the person with lived experience and amplifying, engaging, and even finding to be part of our coalition. As Roger mentioned, I was the co-chair of the lived experience group in our state work. I just got finished with the LA County lived experience peer meeting for DV Council. And I made a point to add to our group norms to center and uplift the voice of the person with lived experience, especially when we're making decisions and recommendations. And I think that's very important because as some others here have said, sometimes there are rooms where you feel like tokenized or people haven't got the memo that we are the people closest to the solution. And I encourage you guys to just keep showing up, and you don't even have to just show up at work in that space. There's a lot of community opportunities to also provide your lived expertise. And one way to kind of bring forth or uplift the person with lived experience is to ask them to put it in their North Star or part of their group norms. So you can say, hey, you guys, remember, we're the ones you're supposed to be like working with here. Sometimes people need to be reminded because it is kind of a new way of doing things, I think. So keep going.
Yeah. And this isn't a Basha County thing at all. Please hear me say, I love partnering. I love teaming. I am a peer partner at my heart. I uplift and amplify those with lived experience, and we need to partner. And partnering is hard, right? Being in a relationship is hard, and that's what we're entering into, is a relationship, and we don't often understand each other in the very beginning. So we have to date each other, and we have to get to know each other, and let me learn about you and you're going to learn about me, and and then that way we can kind of build that connection. So I do want to say that we are a passionate group of people, both parent and youth partners, and we will speak from the heart, and we're not trying to be adversarial in any way. It's just those with lived experience and peer partners specifically have been historically minimized and also disinvited from the table. And so there creates some feelings, and this presentation specifically is how can we do it and do it well and have success for both ends, for counties to be successful and lived experience peer partners be successful. And that's the goal. That's the beauty. That's my charge. I really want to see beautiful partnerships across all, where we're all getting informed together. So when we're talking about onboarding, real quick, so we got like 4 minutes. These are some things you need to think about when onboarding those with lived experience. The peer community came together, and we did this at our peer hub. So we have anywhere between 150 and 300 peer partners across the state of California come together. And these were the barriers that came out of one of our meetings. So when entering spaces, we are asked to provide feedback as a parent partner. It's beneficial to think about these barriers prior to onboarding, particularly not to make assumptions, but create a safe space to allow for open communication and understand what would potentially limit or prohibit someone from partnering. Having and knowing how you may go about supporting is not just these areas, but others arise from your conversation. So when we're doing those warm invitations and we're having a conversation, we're kind of unpacking that a little bit, right? What do you need to be successful to partner with us? Oh, I didn't advance the slide. I did it on my other one. I'm very sorry. Sorry.
I was just
You
gonna
have
say,
it? I'm sorry. Someone tell me next time. Schedules, compensation, lack of traction, right? So a couple of us have spoken about that today. What happens after? We never really hear anything. There was a great fear of losing their job. A lot of times we enter spaces where not only my boss might be there, but my boss's boss might be there. And you're asking me to give very true and vivid feedback of what could be useful to you. Honest feedback, yeah. Time commitments. So I, as a parent partner, I worked from 8 in the morning till 7 at night sometimes, depending on when my caregiver was available. And if we had a family team meeting attached to that, I might not be available from the 8 to 5 that county workers work in. So are there any asynchronous opportunities? Can you send me something? Can I, a Google document? We have a conversation? Can we Zoom it? Right? We have to think outside of the box to accommodate those with lived experience as well. Clarity of the ask. We talked about this already. It's our responsibility when onboarding those with lived experience to equip them with the information and guidance and resources they need when creating and implementing and joining our county prevention teams. Okay, so
and
go ahead, Roger, please.
So I would talk to those in the peer community as well. This is also good for you to have. So that way, if no one is approaching you in a way and you're trying to get into that space, you know exactly what it is and how to go about approaching it to kind of be able to have those conversations, right? Because a lot of it is how to approach the peer community, right? And if you are the peer community and you're not being approached, what is it that you can ask in order to be a part of it? So that way they understand and know, hey, this individual knows what they're doing, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest things as well, is that when we come in as the peer community, it's assumed that we know what's going on. And I was one that stopped them right there in the moment and say, hey, whoa, hold on, what's this about? And I learned that, with other peers around me. Dawne was one of them that was very instrumental with the BPAC, Parent Partner Advisory Committee. There I go with acronyms. That really gave me that ability to be able to say, okay, so when I go sit at this table, what am I looking at? What is it that you're asking of me? So I'll stop that because I know we have to get some more things done, but I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
I did want to highlight the integrated core practice model. I have read all 5,882 pages. It is a very long guide, very long. However, they have pulled out the 10 ICPM behaviors and what that looks like when collaborating with those with lived experience. I also want to highlight the ICPM trainer's guide when talking about county leadership opportunities and how to onboard those with lived experience in that realm. And it is a great guide and kind of walks you through what the expectation is and how to partner alongside those with lived experience. Beautiful. It's already written. It's there. It's in the guide. And I love it. And I refer to it all the time. It is very cumbersome. I am also going to email Elizabeth a lot of the resources and documents that I was not able to provide in our workshop today. So you'll get a bulk of those. And then finally, here's how we can support. And I want to really stop and talk about working directly with a peer partners or a youth partners, parent partners organization, leaning in and kind of being that middleman of, when I first joined the Parent Partner Advisory Committee, it was back in the day, we were all in person, and I was invited because I knew someone who knew someone, 4 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? And I asked my supervisor if I could go. And I said, but Davis is paying for it, so we don't have to worry about it. I got the day, blah, 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 got to go. Came back. I didn't know what they did, but I knew I wanted to be a part of it. I'm like, I don't know what I just experienced up there, but it was awesome. And I want to do that. And they provided me with a letter of explanation to give to my director and my supervisor and the CEO of my organization, which talked about what was the Parent and Partner Advisory Committee, why it would be beneficial for me as a parent partner to be on that committee, and how it would benefit the organization having someone from our community base or in Riverside being on the Parent Partner Advisory Committee, right? So it benefits everyone. I get to put it in my file. I get to put it on my resume. My boss gets to say, hey, my lead parent partner is part of the Parent Partner Advisory Committee. They advise the entire state of California. I work alongside CDSS. It sounds super fancy and we do great work, right? And they get to kind of put that on their list as well. I have written both samples of a recruitment letter and also a letter of explanation. It's in the box folder attached to this workshop that you can work off of when you're trying to look for and recruit, and also help onboarding those with lived experience. They're just kind of general. You are welcome to make them your own, however you want to personalize them to your county, but there are sample letters in there for you. And the last thing I want to stop on is, if you have lived experience and you're interested in joining your county prevention planning team, there is the FFPSA list that I will be providing a list, or Elizabeth. You can reach out to your county and find out who that contact person is. But the one thing I want to end on today, and we have 1 minute, is who is the point person on the county prevention planning team that is going to walk alongside that person with lived experience, joining the team, checking in, monitoring, seeing how they're feeling, giving them what they need, training, resources, or guidance to be an effective participant in that planning space. We need some things sometimes. You know, it's an unrealistic expectation to think that those with lived experience would have had or utilized anything that's going on in the system right now today. So child and family teaming, it's been around for a lot of years, but I didn't have a child and family team. I had a TDM, right? Team decision meeting. That was like years ago. I didn't have a CANS assessment, child adolescent needs and strengths assessment. That's going to be required within the child and family teaming realm now. So for me to have that knowledge would be an unrealistic expectation. But now that I know that that's part of it, you know, I got a little training, I got some guidance, and now I can be effective when having those conversations around those topics. It's a parallel process. We both have to do the work. I have to do work as a parent partner, someone with lived experience, to effectively join a group. I have to open my heart and bob and weave and bend and turn. And same with the county prevention planning team. How can we partner together? Sometimes there's no one to do that. So we have to support each other and at the same time advocate for a lead position that will prepare on board. Yes, absolutely. It's hard work. Like I said, I mean, we're literally pushing a boulder up the hill. It's hard. We're all inundated. Everybody has hours and hours of work every single week. Absolutely validating 100%. And even a soft check-in is helpful to get a little bit of information to help bridge that gap. It is 12:16. You've stayed way over this workshop. Thank you so much for coming. I hope Roger and I gave you some information that was helpful. My email is on the workshop. No, it's not. Dang it. My email's in the by my name. And so please email me. We have training, coaching, technical assistance through the RCFFP. I can help you with your county, connect, and and build a plan to bring someone with lived experience on into your county. So with that, thank you again, Roger, you are a dream. Lorena, thank you for being our, oh my gosh, peer certification expert, and Elizabeth, perfect proctor. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the convening, and please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would be happy to help you 100%.